It's 2019. In our Tech Note segment, we're going to be having a conversation about something that comes on from last evening, but also from last week as well. Although everyone should have a will, the discussion on this normally is uncomfortable for everyone. Well, our president talked about it. Wills can distribute your property, name an executor, name guardians for the children, forgive debts, and more. Now, having a will also means that you, rather than your state laws, decide who gets to have your property when you die. And this morning, we take on this conversation seeking answers to the tough questions often raised about wills, and one of them being whether or not women should inherit property. Yesterday's budget speech, the president did go ahead and give an interesting view on this matter. So let's take a look.
About our late comrade Professor Nsibambi and his heir, who is none other than our daughter, one of the girls of Nsibambi. Actually, Professor Nsibambi had told me about his determination to make her daughter the heir. I am a traditionalist, but a traditionalist who wants a strong Africa. That is what I told the Buganda Luchiko in my speech of the 2nd of August 1993, when I opened that body. Africa cannot be strong with the traditions that disable her. Therefore, all traditions must be audited with that in mind. I saw lawyer Murira arguing legally about the issue of the heir to Professor Nsibambi. With me, when dealing with issues, I never start with the legality, but with legitimacy. Is it legitimate? Is it reasonable? Is it rational for girls to inherit their parents' wealth and responsibilities in some circumstances? In the modern context, the answer is an unequivocal yes. Yes, the Banyankore in the past never allowed girls to inherit for very good reasons of that time. The Banyankore, like the other tribes of this area, are exogamous. Exogamous means you marry outside your clan. You don't marry within. When you marry within, they call it endogamous. They are exogamous and also patrilineal. Moreover, the clans were sometimes at war with one another. Since the girl had to marry outside the clan, was it wise to allow her to take the heritage of the clan to the clan of her marriage? What if this clan was to fight us tomorrow? Because that was the logic of that time. What if that clan where this girl has gone, what if they were turned against us? Those were the considerations of that time, and they were legitimate. Today, however, the considerations are different. The main challenge is to produce modern wealth. This is the challenge we have.
Now, the challenge we have that the president does raise, in March there was findings that released that women in half of the countries in the world are unable to assert equal land and property rights despite the legal protections that warn members on what exactly should happen. At this point in time, there are a number of women who can't access even just father's property. Now, one of them being the former Prime Minister of Uganda, the late Apollo Nsibambi's daughter, Rhoda Kasuja, who can't access her at this point in time. As of last week, what the clan head of the Fumbe clan did say, that there's a customary bit of things, and there's also what the law is saying at this point in time, his will. Well, we have a lawyer and also a lady who's advocating for women to have her will. That is Miss Christine Birawa Nsubuga. Welcome to Morning at NTV.
Thank you very much.
And I'm also joined by Zaituni Kakeyamba. She is the coordinator, PAM Professional Counselor. She has been on Morning at NTV a number of times, and this time she now comes on that end, women. And we'll start it off with what I just mentioned, the statistics. In society at this point in time, women are working, women are in boardrooms, women are doing a number of things, but we can't even access just the rights to land or the rights to property in whatever form. What would you have to say about that?
I'm not sure if we're saying we can't or we're saying it is difficult to. I think that we can, because the laws, for example, if you think about Uganda, the laws are clear. The Constitution of Uganda, I think Article 21 or Article 22 of the Constitution says there will be no discrimination, even on the basis of gender or sex, if you like. And that means if there is property that me as a woman, I should be accessing, ideally, on the face of it, the laws allow me to access it. The devil is in the practice when you attempt or when you try to access that. So in Uganda, as in I believe many other African countries, we have we're lost between worlds. We had our customs, our cultures, all of those, and then common law came in when we got colonized. So we were trapped between systems, our traditional systems, which, yes, I can say that disadvantaged the girl and the woman a lot. But also those laws that came and said, but this, but the other, but nobody really carefully looked to clean out, to organize, to say, okay, this is the modern world that we want to look to, that the president is talking about. Having said that, I think that if you went to court, nothing, there is no court even in Uganda that is going to say, because you're a woman, you can't inherit. Because you're a woman, you can't be entitled to property. The courts are going to consider the circumstances of a particular case. Okay, so maybe there's a husband and wife, and there's a house that they're contesting for. Maybe the wife, they got married when the man already had that house. It will have to be a matter of proving, producing evidence that, I should own a part of that house that I found this man with. So I don't want to say that women can't access property. I would like to say that the circumstances of each case are important to consider. But on the face of it, we have the laws that support us. There will be no discrimination on the basis of sex or gender. And so based just on that in the Constitution, I think we're sort of taken care of. I would like to say also that in relation to the succession law, when they divided property in the succession law that was drafted, I think, in 1906, then there was a decree around 1972 that adjusted a bit of it. In that law, section 27 decided how property was going to be distributed. If a man died, passed on, and for some reason it only envisaged men dying, but that law distributed, for example, it said if you had many wives or a wife, they only got 15% of the estate. But then when it distributed to children, it actually didn't distinguish between girls and boys. Okay, but now on the 5th of April of 2007, women lawyers went to court and they said, we find that this kind of distribution is discriminatory on the part of the woman, because it assumes that as a woman you're just there, you haven't contributed anything, so you only get 15%. So the courts, the courts agreed with the lawyers and they said yes, it was discriminatory, and removed it. And as it is right now, Parliament hasn't come up with a new way of distributing property. But what we do is we say property must be distributed equitably, fairly and equitably. We don't say equally because circumstances are different, a 2-year-old, a 40-year-old, but equitably between men and women, boys and girls.
Well, you mentioned the law part of things, also what culture is saying on that end, but then there's also religion, because just giving the case in point of Rhoda, when she was named, there was a part of the Bible where they went to reference, which is Numbers 27. Just to be correct, chapter 27, they talk about where God told Moses, when it came to a gentleman who was actually he died without naming an heir. And in that point in time, he said, no, the Israelites, let the daughters take on the inheritance. Now, bringing in Zaituni, what does the Quran say about inheritance of property?
Wow. Good morning, everybody. I mean, we need to greet people out there because I'm even feeling called. The will. First and foremost, nobody can be fair when it comes to wealth. Nobody, even parents to their children, husbands to their wives, to cousins and friends and family, nobody can be fair. So it's when our Creator took it on himself, and he said in the Quran, that is chapter 4, people, it's a bit lengthy, in chapter 4, that is verse 11 to 12, there are two but a bit big, where he distributes this property because he's the one who gave it to us anyway, and he knows we cannot give it out fairly, because you even when it comes to our children, there is one that you feel is better or is stronger, is more intelligent, so God takes it on himself in chapter 4, that is verse 11, 12, and then 176. That is one. Secondly, our prophet told us that it is not right or it is not proper for anybody who has anything that could be inherited to let 2 nights pass without writing a will. So it's incumbent upon all of us who are sane, all of us who think that we have anything valuable that we need to give to the people we love, the people we think can take on our legacy, to write a will when we are still sober, when we are still strong and energetic, when we are still working. We write out things so clearly that can be taken on after we are dead. We are supposed to be fair. We are supposed to be objective when we are giving out this property. Lastly, in Islam, we are allowed, the will is allowed to give out only a third of your property. The rest of your property is supposed to be given out according to Islamic law. So God takes on the other, that is 7 out of 10, to give it out because he is the only one who can be fair. You can only and distribute third of your property. Then maybe the other thing to note is if you feel there will be some unfairness after your death, you are given liberty to give out your property while you're still alive. Judging, you know who to give what according to what you think, because it's now before you die, when you have power when you're still alive. After death you cannot be,
there's not that much power
you can't influence anything. So you are given liberty to give out your property now in writing, or even give it, if it's a car, if it's a house, just give that car to that person. Make the document that I've given this to my daughter A and this, if it's a house, if it's a plot of land, while you are still alive. But Islam encourages us and tells us to be fair.
Okay.
To be very fair.
Christine Zaituni, I want to be very practical, especially when we're having conversations like this, because the reason why we're having this as part of our debate today, and the reason why the president is talking about it, is honestly, it's not because of the law, it's not because of religion, it's because of our practices as human beings, as our culture has set a standard for us. Every single, I don't even want to think of a place where I've grown up not knowing that the first boy in the family is thought of first when it comes to inheriting. And I know women activists are going to come out and make a lot of noise about this, and rightfully they should. But because of our culture and because of the way things have been set up before, where we all know, as you three ladies are seated here and I am the boy, if our father is looking for someone to carry on his name, someone to carry on his legacy, the first person he is expected to look at is me, for reasons that we all know. If a man comes and takes Zaitun or Christine, Zaitun is not a Lukasi anymore. Zaitun becomes that man's family and property and whatever it is. So that is the reason why we're having this argument. This is the reason why we're having this debate. Is there any chance that we are going to
get out of it?
I think we must, and I think this discussion has been going on, we must think about, you talked about your father looking for someone to take his name forward.
Yes.
When I get married, I am taking my husband's name forward through the children I bear. You, when you get married, you are taking your father's name forward, even through the children you bear. And for me, I have no problem with that. For me, I think there's a place for culture, there's a place for religion, and there's a place for the law. And I think we shouldn't mix them up. And I think we need them. I started in the beginning by saying we are lost between two worlds. We are lost between the West, who do things a certain way, and the laws that they brought to us, or systems, and then our own cultures.
We need to find a balance.
Yes, our own cultures still have a place in our lives. They give us identity. They help us to be who we are. The law doesn't.
At the beginning of this year, I learned of something very interesting. And this is from our friends in the Busoga region. Hopefully I didn't learn that the wrong way. But they have someone that can inherit the name of the legacy of that person. And then they have someone who can inherit the other side of, not the legacy, because they always want to pick up on someone that looks like their father, someone has someone they can always say, oh, he looks just like his father, he's definitely the heir. But when it comes, it doesn't mean that necessarily this person that looks like his father
is going to be
the responsible person to take on, that legacy or keep it. And they do that quite easily. The family sits and say, well, for us, this person. Yeah. And then the clan sits and says, well, look here, for us, we are saying this person. And they have two people. Is there space for that?
Maybe to be clear, and the psych bit of it. The thing is, you live by the sword and die by the sword. If, David, you've decided to run your life Islamically, your life will end Islamically. If, for example, if I'm here on TV and I'm like, actually, maybe to even note, in your will, you state clearly that I want my property to be distributed in this way. If I, Zaitun, would like my property to be distributed along the Sharia law, I want my property to be distributed culturally, or in the national law. So it's very, that is why we are calling upon ourselves, while we are still alive, let's be clear on these things. The will does not mean you're dying the next minute. Okay? If you are a Muslim, tell people that when I die, you can say it with the people you think are responsible.
This is what I want to be done.
This is what I want to be done. Tell your children that when I die, I want this property to be distributed Islamically. You raise them knowing that this is what we are going to do. The problem why we are having this, you have lived, probably you've been paying legacy to your cultural ties, and then the cultural heads are now taking responsibility. They're taking on their authority. That this is a Muganda man.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is what Buganda says.
This is what,
okay. And then the church is going to say,
this is what it should be.
This is what the church says.
So you end up at loggerheads. You have two people that have want the same thing, but
it's unfortunate you are dead.
Yeah.
So these strongholds are going to fight.
Okay. Now, in the case of the fallen premier, it's not that he didn't tell you people who he wanted to, be the heir. He named it. So why is the fight then?
The problem is not the heir.
First of all, I think that this family is still mourning, and we should allow them to mourn.
I agree.
To start with, really.
I agree.
We should not be. It reminds me of the story of a man in the Sudan, a journalist in the Sudan, who saw a little baby starving to death, and a vulture waiting for it to die, and took his picture, went and became an international celebrity, overtaking the picture and took off. And someone said, in that place there were two vultures, the journalist and the vulture itself, because he didn't save the baby. He took his picture, and it makes me feel like that when we don't even allow that family
to grieve and really
grieve and take care of their business, and we're all suddenly interested in their own affairs. Each of us in our homes and families, we have so many challenges relating to succession and this whole issue of succession planning, and I think we should focus there. I think we should be asking ourselves, how is it working? How is it going to work in our families? So many people in Uganda are not writing wills, and they have no reason why they are not writing wills. I'll die, they will think I have HIV AIDS, or this or the other. No, it is just the same way that you say, I am earning 1 million shillings, I'll be saving 30% of it every month. Why? Because you're planning and saving for your future. It's the same for the will. Do you think you want to work so hard, take your children to good schools, love your wife or your husband for that matter, and then when you're gone, leave them to vultures? Leave them to these vultures that are waiting? No, that's what we are saying, that whether or not the professor did what they did is not the issue. The issue is, how is it working in your own environment, in your own family, extended family? Are you doing what you're supposed to do, which is write a will. A will helps you to organize yourself. A will helps you to decide what you want to do. He decided what he wanted to do, and that's okay.
We should respect that.
That's okay. For us, what does the law say? What does our culture say? What does our religion say? How do we, depending on where I am, how do we marry those to get the best result for the people that will remain behind when we're gone?
Your last remarks, Zaituni, on this one.
My last remarks is, first and foremost, in Islam, we continue worshipping our Creator even after death. So one of the things that you are hoping to meet your Creator after death is writing a will, because He told us to write a will. He told us to distribute the property according to what He told us in the Quran. And at the end of the verse, He tells us that those who have not followed what I've told them are going to face the consequences here in life and after. So some people, sometimes we are short-sighted. But I encourage myself and the rest of us all out there, give your property out while you're still sane. Write out how you want it to be distributed, and seek professional advice, religious advice, so that at the end of the day we don't have these continuous wars. And maybe to testify, in Islam, the families that have followed the Sharia way of giving out property are a bit sane, and those who have followed the human law are fighting up to today. These are the things you hear, that you left land for a mosque, and then your son is like, no way, they will not build the mosque. So I'm calling upon the viewers out there, let us write the will.
Let's do things when we're still safe.
Yes, and let's share with the people that we love. You tell them, David, when I die, let's do this. I think they'll come up and testify that this is what he said when he died.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Zaituni Kacham, Coordinator Palm Professional Counsellors, and Christine Birabwa Nsubuga, a lawyer. Thank you very much. Hopefully we have made sense more of that, and hopefully the viewers have picked up from that. And going forward, maybe that will help us. Thank you very much for sparing time to join us this morning. Zaitun, you are becoming a regular here.
I'm glad to be here. I'm very glad.
Anyway, before we wrap up this conversation, Rita is on the touch screen there. There are a couple of comments that are coming through this morning. Rita, what are people saying?
Well, when it comes to the question of who do you think should take the inheritance when one passes on, well, on social media, you can be a part of the conversation. Use the hashtag morning@NTV, and you could find that question as well on our social media platforms, NTV Uganda, Facebook, and Twitter. Now, taking a look at Twitter first, we have George Mr. Smile, who says it should be taken according to the will of the late person. And on Facebook, we have Chamong's Fred, who says inheritance should be abandoned. It is a dirty game because people are different. My dad and mom are irreplaceable. That's what he says. And still going forward, we have Warakira George, who says on Twitter it should be taken according to the will of the late person. And say that earlier on Facebook, we have if the deceased, that is Achiro Mukholin, says if the deceased was married and had children, then the children take over. But if married without children, the siblings and wife should share, because women these days, immediately the man dies, give it 1, 2, or 3 months, she's married to another man, and others even kill the men to inherit the wealth. Interesting. And on Twitter, we have Abaho, who says anyone who can take responsibility should be given the inheritance. Still going on, we have Felix Chaine on Facebook, who says our deceased laws, according to the Administration General, stipulates clear that a sound-minded, mature person should write a will according to availability of estates and other liquidity of disposal and distribute them fairly amongst his or her family members, first to the biological children, and the same law comes binding his decision, period. And we have one from Twitter, Juma the German, who says elder son is the one who should take it. Well, be a part of the conversation, #morning@NTV. But for now, we're going to be getting a traffic update from Stephen Mbide.
Thank you, Rita, for getting to me. Yes, I'm here at Chisasi at the T-junction for those people coming from Chikulambiro. They are on my left. And for those